Hey, one more thing before you go. How would you feel if you could improve your lifestyle simply by decluttering, organizing, and creating a manageable system of keeping it that way? We're about to end 2022, and what a better way to start the new year than by getting rid of things that block our lives' progress in developing a system of lifestyle organization. We're going to learn how to do that with the help of a lifestyle and organizing coach. I'm your host, Michael Hurst, and welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. My guest in this episode is Jessica Barkley. She's a lifestyle and organization coach based in the UK. She's a public speaker on decluttering and time management and mental health and environmental advocate, as well as the founder of a Happy Lifestyle Club private membership. A membership club is a community-based, a community-focused safe space where you can work on a number of areas, including decluttering, goal setting, self-care, to help you build a strong foundation lifestyle for the life that you want. The club is founded on the basis of happiness, which I love, and all of its shapes and sizes should be the priority. Jess lives in Berkshire in the UK with her daughter and other half, Jess. Jess loves lifting heavy things in the gym as well as in the clients' houses. She started her career as a wedding and event planner, as well as starting her own guest house, and before her daughter had her health and fitness studio in London. Welcome to the show.
Hello. It's really weird hearing your bio read out. You're like, this person sounds really interesting. I'd love to meet them. We have loads in common.
Well, I loved reading it because everything that you do is an amazing journey to where you're at right now and what you do for people. I mean, we all need decluttering in our life. I cannot tell you what my desk looks like. In fact, I would be embarrassed to pick my camera down and show you. So I might learn something here in the middle of this conversation. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And you're across the pond, as they say. And so I think it's the afternoon for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great timing. I got out doing the school run because so I said to my, I can't do school run. You'll have to go, which is brilliant because it's grey and miserable outside. I mean, I wouldn't be British if I didn't bring the weather up within the first 5 minutes of the conversation. But it's getting dark already, so my other half's gone to pick the little one up, which is it's nice to get out of it. I like staying in the house. I don't like going out.
Good excuse. I'm sorry, honey. I have to do an interview. So yes, you have to do this now. There you go. I really appreciate what you bring to the world. I want to start off learning more about your journey and how you got there. Where'd you grow up?
Oh, way back many centuries ago, not long after the Bible began. It was.
I love
so
that.
I love musicals. You can tell. So I grew up I was originally born on the outskirts of London, and when I was quite young, we moved down to the New Forest, which is in Hampshire. So if you're looking at the map of the UK, right at the bottom in the middle, there's a little tiny island. And I lived directly above that on the mainland. So that's the Isle of Wight, and I lived directly above that. Grew up there until my late teens. And then I actually went and lived in Romania. Was meant to be for 9 months. So, of course, everyone thought I was going because I was pregnant.
Because you left for 9 months.
Everyone is like, I should have. But in the end, I actually only stayed 6 months. I was only 17 and I went on my own. I'm a little bit crazy like that, and I did miss home a bit too much and things, so I came back a bit earlier, and I then slowly made my way down to Cornwall. So I lived in Devon for a bit, and then eventually ended up in Cornwall. Came back to the New Forest, went back to Cornwall, left Cornwall when I got divorced in where was that, 2014? No, it must have been before then. Yeah, about 2014, moved up to London, requalified and all that jazz, started sort of a different career, as it were. And I then last summer, not the summer just been, the summer before, moved out to Newbury in Berkshire, with my partner. This is the area he's from. And I said I would never leave London. I was very cemented there. I hadn't enjoyed growing up in the countryside. I hadn't enjoyed my time living in Cornwall. And I was like, I want to be in London. I want to stay here. I'm never leaving. And then COVID happened and everything changes, doesn't it? You reassess everything. And one day I was writing out my life goal affirmations, which is a system I teach. And part of that is I write them out every morning. And I looked at them and thought, none of these say I live in London. And in fact, some of these are actively hindered by me continuing to live in London. And I wish we'd moved sooner, but you can only go when you're ready to go, can't you?
I think we all have that aspect. Sometimes we wish we would have done something sooner.
Yeah. Even if it had just been, we decided to come at the beginning of COVID because my partner's mum's out here, his brother, his sister's now out here with her partner. This is much closer to family. We've left one of his members of family in London, but they were central London and we were the outskirts. So in COVID, we weren't even allowed to travel to see each other. Whereas here we would have been able to see each other a lot more and been able to support. One of the brothers looks after the mum full time, so we would have been able to support them more and things. But we are here now, and we are loving it so much that I now want to go and find a bit of wasteland and live in the woods. I'm so over city life. I now fully want a tree.
I actually can relate to that. I'm from Colorado. I'm living in Arizona now. So I'm from Colorado and I grew up in the mountains. I grew up at 8,500 feet up behind Pikes Peak. Our front yard was literally the backside of Pikes Peak.
I think sometimes we see having lots of choice as freedom, but then actually we are making chains out of our choices, out of having too many choices. We don't end up picking. If we get overwhelmed by Netflix and what else have we got? Whatever streaming services we've got.
Yeah, Hulu, Netflix, Disney.
Amazon. Yeah, all of those things. If we think, I just can't make a choice, we get a DVD out. We are old school. We still have some DVDs.
I have about 3,000 of them stashed.
And we've limited them down as well, so they fit. We've got one drawer that's my daughter's under the TV, one drawer that's my daughter's one drawer that's ours. Sort of the more, I say adult ones, but that makes people think of something else. But more over 12,
age appropriate.
Yes, and there's loads in there that we will quite happily rewatch. I love rewatching things. If I'm particularly tired or stressed, I automatically go to something I've watched a million times. I like to know what's going to happen. It's so much calmer. And I know that's, I'm autistic and I have ADHD, so that's a very neurodiverse thing as well. So if we do ever watch anything new, I'm straight on my phone, onto Wikipedia. What's the storyline? What's the thing? And then my partner's sitting there trying to guess who's done it. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know.
Yeah,
tell she did it.
I need to confess, I do the same exact thing. My wife will look at me and she goes, you know already, don't you? Yeah, that's the pitfalls of having the phone next to us and that little computer in our hand sometimes.
But I enjoy it so much more when I know what's going to happen. I enjoy it so much more.
We have that in common. Yes, we do. So yeah, I'm going to tell my wife I'm not the only one. I am not the only one.
There's a whole load of us out there that we all do it, and it's a reassuring way of watching a TV program.
It is. I think it's a desire to understand the plot line and where the story's going, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm very into staging and production, lighting, how they've done the music with something. And even when I used to go to the theatre, I haven't been for years, but when I used to go to the theatre, that would be the bit I loved, of everything in Hamilton. I think a common one that loads of people loved. I've only seen it on TV. I saw it on Disney in COVID and I've watched it many times now. But I'll sit there and I'll watch how they transition the costume changes and how they transition the set. And I find that really interesting. And if I've also got to work out the storyline, I can't enjoy that bit. It's like the new Top Gun. oh, how they use the music in the new Top Gun
Isn't it
is, I
amazing?
just thought was so good. So they really respected the soundtrack from the first one, which I
Yes.
love, and integrated the story. And that for me is what I like. I really get into. So I kind of need to know what the storyline is so that I can enjoy my favorite bits.
We're going to have another conversation about all of that.
Yeah.
Seriously, it is. It's hard to find. I have a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies with a focus on performance and digital media. Filmmaking is my second love, from other than being a police officer. That was my second love. And when I left the police department, I went back to university and studied filmmaking and created an international film festival. And I did it twice, and then I did 5 screenwriting conferences, international, collected international people in Las Vegas for 5 years. I love every aspect of that. I created a movie theater and not a movie theater, a theater, and produced plays. There's just so much more. Everything that you're just talking about, we would have a fantastic, wonderful conversation with that. I believe everything that you just said about the like Top Gun, the latest one, and the integration of the music mixed with how the story is presented and carried along. It wasn't overwhelming. It was perfect the way it was
It was very
integrated.
clever.
It wasn't, yeah, because sometimes you come in and the music just blast, and it is annoying instead of integrating, instead of enjoyable. So yeah, we're going to have another conversation if you don't mind.
It was beautiful. I think it's partly how my neurodiverse brain sees things. I mean, that's why I'm good at organizing and staging spaces, because I see past what a lot of people would see. And I see all the little bits. I call it
Right.
friction. So I'll see the friction in how we do something, and I want to make everything flow. I want to make things smooth. And I'd be like, well, this is, for me, this is obvious why this space never gets tidy, or it's obvious why this space looks wrong. Whereas the other person sits like, I never would have thought of that. And I think I do that the same when I used to be in drama and things in school. And everyone always thinks when you're female, and I don't know if the guys find this as much, but I very much found that if you showed any interest in drama as a female, you automatically presumed that you wanted to be some big actress on the stage. And I'm like, no, I want to be designing the set and like the lighting concepts. And I didn't use my voice soon enough to be able to have a chance to learn enough about that at school that I could then turn it into a career and move it off into anything else, which is a shame. But I definitely see how what I loved about that now shows up in my work, and how I do things. And I find it really fascinating. I don't think you can just go and do a course and be a coach in
Right.
any field. I don't think that's realistic. I think they're very good supporting elements, and I've done courses. I've
Right.
even done some courses twice with 2 different companies just to continue the knowledge and sort of revamp my thinking around things. But I think depending on which industries you're in, certain types of personality, certain types of brain work better with them, and they see things differently. I'm quite a creative person, and
Mm-hmm.
I think growing up, I was very much seen. I had a rough childhood. I'm an adult of a traumatic childhood, but I was very creative. And when I was growing up, creative was painting or sculpting or
Right.
that kind of thing. And actually, creative manifests in so many different ways. And I'm a very creative person, but that can be creating furniture or creating a feeling in a room or creating a new way to plan goals and things like that. And it's creative now. We know, so we're so much better at knowing that that means so
Yeah.
many other things. And so when someone shows an aptitude in a certain area, we have a bit more understanding now of the possibilities that that opens. Which I think is so wonderful and something I'll be
Yeah.
helping my daughter with. But it's really helped me find my feet in how I want to be as a coach. I love helping. I did a lot of stuff and was naturally drawn to like charity work and things as a child, and through into my adult life, because I always wanted to be helping. But you also need to make some money and pay for things. Like, I did try and win the lottery so I could just work for free for charities. And I know you can get paid jobs for charities, but they never sort of seemed to fit my skill set. And it was just eventually you do all these different bits of jobs that support the coach you're going to become.
Right.
And you have to kind of think outside the box with the skill set. So people come to, oh, I'd love to do what you do. What course can I go on? And I was like, well, here's the courses I've done, but they were just supporting elements. I mean, I understand decluttering a loved one's possessions because my mum died. It's not that I went on a course. I mean, I have some of the courses I've done have talked about deceased people and how you process that system. But my biggest learnings for that was going through the process myself and going through the process with my sister and helping her understand with my mum's stuff how that it was just stuff and what was important to us and things. It came also from life experience. It's when you get people, I see it a lot with time management gurus talking about how to like ace your time management as a parent when they're not a parent. And I just don't think any course can teach you enough to be able to understand the mental load of being a parent and how that affects your time management. There's a lovely lady on YouTube who does some gorgeous stuff. And she's recently had a little one. And for years, I've watched people in the comments going, just you wait, this is lovely, but just you wait till you have a child. It'll all be different. And it's that understanding that I will specialize in certain areas because I've got a lot more experience in them, because I've been through those kind of things. I attract a lot of neurodiverse clients because I'm neurodiverse, and therefore I get it a bit better. We're never going to be exactly the same as someone else. We're never going to have experienced the exact same things that they have. But I find if you've lived, you bring a bit more of perspective. I'm only 35, so I'm saying if you've lived, but I'm only 35. Am I 30? Yeah, I am still 35. Yes.
That's a good thing you had to think about that.
Yeah, well, sometimes I feel about 90, but I've always been told I'm an old soul. I've the cat of nine lives. I've had a number of different careers that have all culminated in what I do now, and I've been through a number of interesting journeys. And they often say traumatic childhood breeds old souls.
I can relate to that as well. I grew up with a very dysfunctional family. Both my parents were alcoholics. So I think it's your life experience brings something to coaching that is more personal and more appropriate to helping people through their own ordeals. If I can backtrack just a moment, I know you've been very diverse with some of your other jobs. Would you want to be when you grew up? Did you go to university for something in particular? How did you come about?
So I got diagnosed with genetic cataracts when I was 5.
Wow.
I had an operation when I was 5, operation when I was 7, and then I wasn't catching up. So I was already quite far behind at school, wasn't catching up, and the surgical optician that did my eyes said, get a check for dyslexia. Got assessed, high level dyslexia. And after that, everything got blamed on my dyslexia. So I didn't get diagnosed as autistic and ADHD until later life. My final official autism diagnosis, I have to wait another couple of years to get. But like in the UK, a lot of adults, while we're waiting for assessment, we just embrace the diagnosis. There's no way I can't have it. Everyone said it. The specialists that I've spoken to have all said it. There's no way you're not, but the final tick off assessment is another 3 years away, unfortunately. So everything just got labelled with dyslexia, but I got grants and scholarships to move from the state system because at the time, it's not great now in the UK, but it was even worse then. They were offering me half an hour every other week to try and help me catch up. And I was like 2 years into the school system and I was already a year behind. It's just that
Wow.
half an hour every 2 weeks wasn't going to cut it. So my mum and my dad found me some grants and scholarships. They managed to get me into the private system, which is where the accent comes from. Everyone always thinks I'm really posh, and I'm like, I'm not. I just sound like I am from Downton Abbey. And that was wonderful. It was a very small community. I still had issues. I was physically bullied. I was emotionally bullied. But compared to being in a bigger school, it could have been a lot worse. And they tried to put me back into the state system for secondary school, which went very, very wrong. And I ended up stopping going to classes. I couldn't cope with the big classes and the overwhelming. And again, I was being bullied. But now I had children much older than me also bullying me. And yeah, it was just not a nice environment. So again, my parents fought and got me back into grants and scholarships, got me back into private school, the same one my sister was at as well. She was, well, still is very intelligent. So she'd got scholarships in and assisted places in for being smart. I got in because my mum was a very good blagger. I still to this day have no idea how she quite managed to get me into that school. It was very academic, and I am not naturally academic. I've got a very high IQ, but I'm not a book smart. I'm a common sense smart person, and learning historical facts is not within my forte, which was the kind of school it was. But I got good GCSEs, which is sort of the end of secondary school examinations, and then went into the next level, which is the 2 years before university, which is college or sixth form, depending on which route you go. So if it's attached to a school in the UK, it's sixth form, and if it's a separate thing, it's college, roughly. That's sort of the rough explanation of it. And I'd been actually quite ill through my GCSEs, but just managed to do enough of the exams, collapsed in a couple of exams and things like that. So that was fun. And then I was really ill and hospitalised while I was doing my first year of my A-levels. A lot of I think you do four A-levels in the first year, and then you might drop one and have half a qualification in one and just do 3 in the second year. And most of mine were very coursework based, and I missed quite a lot being in hospital, and I just wasn't going to catch up. My school wouldn't let me restart the year, and so I kind of went, screw you, I'm going to Romania. And I went and did the University of Life instead. And a part of me would have loved to have done university. One day I would still like to get a degree, and you can do certain applications if you are considered a specialist in your arena and you've done lots of smaller qualifications, and you can get into university courses slightly different ways. I don't know the full ins and outs, but I might look at doing something like that one day when my daughter's a lot older. I don't know, there's something in me still that would just like to say I've got a degree and have the little flat hat and get to move my little thing over the top like they do in graduations, which we only, in the UK, we only do it at degree level. We don't do it at the other levels. And so I might still go the degree route, but I went in and tried a few different jobs and worked for a holiday park, did like the holiday park entertainer and kids club entertainer, and worked at a kids outdoor activity centre. And then a venue that my mum was working at was looking for a wedding planner. And I had just finished one seasonal job, didn't like where I was living, was in the middle of nowhere, didn't drive, not very practical. My partner drove, and so I was kind of stuck with whatever he wanted to do, I'd have to do. My mum said, this position's come up. I can get you an interview, because that's the tricky thing, isn't it? When your CV doesn't read very well, they don't get to see what you're capable of. So it was very nice. My mum got me an interview, and she's like, it's completely up to you then. They've made it very clear that they'll only take you if you wow them. But conveniently I did. And they needed someone that was going to be very strong on the admin side. The previous lady had been great, but the paperwork was appalling. And I am one of those geeks that really loves paperwork. It's funny because I'm dyslexic, but I love making sure it's all organised and that all the tick boxes are done and that the contracts are done. And there are so many moving parts when you're running an event that everyone needs to know. And I'm such a perfectionist that, which is not a positive trait, I'd like to add. But I'm a recovering perfectionist now. But at the time, I was such a
Recovering perfectionist.
perfectionist.
I like
Recovering
that.
perfectionist.
I want to borrow that if you don't mind.
Yeah, you can borrow that. But at the time, I was such a perfectionist that I would plan these events to the point where if I got hit by a bus, someone could pick up my paperwork and run the event, which is
Wow.
exactly what they needed. Because Kitchen would have a copy of the paperwork and they would need to know what was going on without having to ask me every 5 minutes. The front of house staff, the hotel staff, the bedroom staff, everyone needed to be able to do this. So it did work really well for me. It connected to a lot of things that I loved, but I need to be challenged. As soon as something is too easy, I just won't do it. And I've tried, but it's a very ADHD thing. I now know. I didn't at the time. I just thought I was difficult. And I booked every weekend, and the only way to progress there would be to have 2 weddings a day. And I wasn't comfortable with that. I don't think 2 weddings in one venue is okay, and particularly the size of venue that I was working at. So I did move to a different venue, did that for a while. 2008 happened, everyone got made redundant. I converted my house into a bed and breakfast, ran my own guest houses. So that's where a lot of I started to get more of a feel for staging of rooms, because that was one of the things I would have, if I'd gone to university, I would have gone to do interior design. And I got to design bathrooms and layouts in very small spaces. So that's where I got very used to making small spaces work. Sold the 3-bedroom B&B, did really well there. Sold it, bought an 11-bed B&B, did all of that, like upcycled all the furniture, like designed all the rooms, had all these really quirky concepts. Everyone loved that place. It's still, I designed that in, where were we? Nearly 10 years ago, and it's still exactly as I designed it. Someone else now runs it. I told, my ex-husband bought me out of it, and he runs it, but it's all still my design. And he's like, I still just get loads of people love it and come back and back based on your designs. So I think if I ever did a degree, I'd probably do interior design. Well,
I'm sure that when I say this, it's a compliment in regard to this, because both my kids have ADHD. They've been recently diagnosed with that. I think that your degree became in life. It was like what you said, everything that you are working towards. I believe that your ADHD and your autism because your high functioning autism, I'm assuming, is high functioning, because we're having this conversation, and I've had a conversation with other people with autism on a different level.
Yeah, so my autism's internal. I think particularly as women, there's a lot of, they're trying to get rid of the high functioning, low functioning, because what they've found is that a lot of people that appear high functioning internally are still dealing with the same stressors that someone that would appear low functioning would. It's quite new, and I think a lot of it has come out with the understanding of the fact that women present very differently to their male counterparts. And as women, particularly if you are brought up in a more traditional sense, we are taught a lot of skills to present in a certain way, and to etiquette and decorum and all this kind of thing, and how as women we're meant to socialize, that we are taught how to mask without realizing it. And if you are not autistic, doing those things to be a certain way in society doesn't hurt you so much, whereas if you're autistic, it's so much more physically exhausting to be doing those societal norms. You do. I will often, I do appear what would be termed as high functioning. But if this is better because we are digital and I'm in my safe space and my home, but if I do speak on big stages, if I go and do that, I have to block off like 4 days after, where I can hide under the blanket on my sofa to let my body recover. It's like I've run a marathon. I would much rather run a marathon than have to people. So if I do with people, I have to recover as if I've done the Marathon des Sables or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I do you think that it helps you in regard to, especially with decluttering and organizing, and look, I have to admit that I'm a little ADHD or a little what do you call it? I'm obsessed with certain things have to be a certain way. My
Yeah.
my kitchen has to be this is out of if you put this away in this cupboard, it doesn't go in that cupboard. It goes in this cupboard on this
Mhm.
side. Um, I'm a lot like that. I do feel that if I'm him hawing because I'm admitting something out into the public world at the moment. It's one of those things where it irritates my wife. Irritates her. Why? What's the big deal? It's like, well, because it doesn't belong over here. It belongs over here. And well, I just put it there because it fit there too. Yeah, but it looks better over here. It fits more here, and this way the kitchen works this way, kind of a thing. I do that on a very consistent basis.
Yeah.
Do you think that in your new line of work, your well, I won't say new line of work, your line of work, do you think that it helps you to be able to help people to kind of get a better understanding of organizing their and decluttering because it gives you an opportunity to help them through that?
Yeah. It helps. I spot the logical way of doing things quite easily. So if you say you've been living in absolute chaos with stuff everywhere, it's very hard to do the simplest decluttering concept is a place for everything and everything in its place. But if you are so used to living in chaos, you're like, I don't know where to start with finding this thing a
Right.
home. And I'm very logical with, particularly if I've spent a little bit of time with them and get a feeling for where things go. So I go through the steps. We categorize first. So what is it that you need in your life or within us? So if we're doing a whole house project, we will categorize the whole house. Like what category is going to go in which room? Or if we're in a room, we'll start with what categories should be in this room. Or if we're going to start with a wardrobe, what category is going to be in the wardrobe? For me, it always starts with categories first. And people think, well, shouldn't you reduce your stuff first? And I was like, but you don't know what you need or what you want if you don't categorize first. So for me, that encompasses all the planning of thinking about what you actually need. Like if you've got loads of ski equipment taking up half your wardrobe, you've never been skiing in your life, and you have an allergy to snow, you're gonna get you don't need
Allergy.
you can get rid of yeah, you can get rid of that category. We don't need that. So we categorize first, then we minimize. So reducing the things, which is a two parts, it's turning off the tap and clearing up the flood. Because a lot of people clear out the flood, they reduce their stuff down, but they don't look at reducing the amount of stuff coming in, so it builds up again very quickly. But then you get to the organize step. So by this point, I have seen how people are within their space, how they function within their space, what they do and don't like, and then I can see where logically things should go for them. Because what is logical for one person and how one person uses their space isn't necessarily going to be logical for how another person uses their space. And it was quite interesting. One of the big steps my partner had to learn with me is if I say I think something should be done like this, it's not a fleeting thought. I have thought about it from every which way and every angle before I've said it. I love a bit of over analysing and overthinking, and I won't put an opinion forward until it's very much fully formed within my head. Because of my ADHD, my brain goes a mile a minute, which means I can often think about things from every which angle very quickly and come up with the logical explanation. And it's very tricky because particularly as a woman, you get labelled as thinking that you're a know-it-all. But it's not that I'm a know-it-all, it's that I'm a research-it-all first. So if I don't know about something, I will go and fill my brain with all the information and come up with my logical version of it. Um, it does have its downside in the fact that then if someone, and obviously if a client wants to do it differently, I can say, this is my suggestion. Let's try it the way you want to do it, and then we can see how we get on, and let's circle back to it in 3 weeks, and we set an alarm or we set a timer, or they journal sort of every day. They'll write a journal, every week they'll write a journal about how it's going and see if it's still working for them. But in away from professional life, if someone really puts their foot down and wants to do it another way that's not logical, that hurts my soul. It's very hard.
I'm laughing because I can relate to that. Trust me. Yes. It's like, okay, well, you can do it that way, but it's going to bother me and continue to bother me because it should be done that way.
Yeah, and bless my partner. He's got I mean, he was the eternal bachelor. I never sort of long-term partner or long-term lived with anyone until I appeared on the scene, and then baptism of fire that he got an autistic ADHD for the first like long-term person to live with, and it for a while, and I do sympathize, but I couldn't do anything about it. Was he felt like I came in and just took over. But now he understands that for me, something not being where I feel it should be within my space, within our home, it's like a physical pain to me. At least when a client wants to do it differently, I get to leave their space and let them deal with it. They've got my recommendation, and usually they'll be like, yeah, you were right. Let's stick with what you just go back to what you said. Or they're so embarrassed that they never hear from them again. No, I'm joking. But it's within my own environment. And a lot of people say out of sight, out of mind. For me, it's not.
It's not.
So I will know the junk drawer is a mess, or I will know the garage is a mess, even if I don't go in there for 2 weeks. And it will be like bouncing around in the back of my head. So I have to go and sort it out.
Oh, we have so much in common. Yes, we do. I feel so good I'm not alone. I appreciate that. What are some things people can do if they want to start? For example, this is the end of the year. Is this a good time? I know everybody talks about spring cleaning, for example, and they wait till spring and they do this. But like here in Arizona right now, the weather is better to do it now than it is in spring. Or during the summer, for example, where it's 120 degrees outside, you can't go out in the garage to clean out the garage, for example. Is at the end of the year a good time to do this, or a good time to start maybe at the beginning of the new year?
It's never a bad time. It's never a bad time. And we have so many different areas in our lives that we can declutter and have a benefit. So a lot of the time at Christmas, family comes together. We quite often watch a lot of cookery programs as a family at Christmas, and often we'll watch repeats of the same thing. There's a couple of DVDs that always seem to come out at Christmas, and for me, I can't just sit and watch them, so I will declutter my phone. I'll declutter my Facebook, I'll declutter my Instagram, I'll declutter the photos on my phone, I'll declutter my Google Drive. Like, I can sit and still enjoy the family experience, because if I didn't fiddle on my phone, which I know for a lot of people seems antisocial, but if I didn't do that, I'd have to leave the room and then I'd be on my own, which is even more antisocial. But there's always something that can benefit. So coming into Christmas, great time to declutter your Christmas decorations. Great time to declutter anything that gifts maybe from last year that you've never used. I am not afraid to re-gift things that other people have given me. So it's a good time to go through anything that's unopened and think, can I actually wrap this up and give it to someone else? This is a brilliant time of year for that kind of thing as well. We always do a toy declutter and things with my little one. We did that a couple of weeks ago. She knows if she doesn't declutter before Christmas, Father Christmas will think she has no space and therefore she won't get anything. So we always do a big clear out, which is great because then there's more toys to donate to charity shops and toy appeals and that kind of thing, which helps other people that maybe can't afford to get presents and what have you. And I think I've done all my Christmas presents for about £45 because I secondhand, charity shop, all that kind of stuff, upcycle, recycle, make. The teachers all get homemade presents, that kind of stuff. I love doing that. But then you've got, seasonal is thinking you don't want to be decluttering the shed when it's pouring down with rain or it's freezing cold or it's too hot, like thinking about those kind of things. I quite often, if I'm going to rearrange the loft, I would do the loft around this time of year because our loft gets very hot in the summer. And at the moment, it feels cold to get up there. But you got to forget when don't forget when you're decluttering, you're going to be moving around a lot. You will get warm quite quickly. So this is quite a good time. And despite the fact that none of my guests for Christmas have ever gone into my loft, I always seem to find myself tidying my loft just before guests arrive at Christmas. I don't know why. It just happens that way. I think it's obviously because I've been up there and taken the decorations down and things. But
and it's in your mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's there. It's much more visible. I mean, my loft's pretty organised anyway, but there's always something else I want to label,
exactly.
rearrange,
I think
clean.
we all can be what we think is organized, and
Mm,
but there are those of us that will go, okay, this looks great, but and start thinking about something
mm,
else that needs to be. Now that I got this taken care of, like we cleaned out the garage, for example, when my father-in-law was here, and we reorganized it. We put up some shelving units, and we got things all squared away. So when we got that completely done, he goes, "Oh, now we can sit down and relax." And I went, "Yeah, but that looks so good. Now we have this to do."
yeah. And then also you go back over things too. So you'll find that you will exercise that decluttering muscle. And so when you've gone through, say your garage was the first thing that you did, it's quite a big project to do first. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but say that was the first one that you did, and then you moved on to other areas, and you got better and better, and you also got more aligned with who you are. And this is why I end up working with people a lot on things like core values. I've got the life goal affirmation system that I set up, and that helps people understand who they are and how they want to be
Hmm.
showing up in the world. Like, what do you want to be in your obituary when you die? Like, it's who do you actually want to be? Because there's no point in just letting go of a load of stuff, keeping a load of stuff if you have no idea
Right.
what stuff you need in your life to be who you want to be, and live in a way that you want to live. Um, so I do a lot of work with people on that as well. And the more you declutter, the more fine tuned that is going to get as well. So you'll end up going back to the beginning and being like, yeah, this just isn't me. I've kept all these things because this would be a great project, but actually, I don't like this kind of project. Maybe you've kept all this scrap metal because you're like, oh, I'm going to do scrap metal sculpting. I'm very creative. But actually, you're like, no, I only like working with wood. I'm only going to keep my wood scraps. Now I'm going to get rid of the metal scraps. That's just not my jam anymore. And also, we change and evolve as people,
Right.
and our priorities change. And like I said, there's always that stuff coming in. I very firmly have the tap turned off in our house, metaphorically speaking. We actively say no presents for our daughter for birthdays and things like that, because stuff just seems to appear, even though we say no presents. Stuff still appears throughout the year. Um, but even being very specific with what we will buy, what we will bring into the home, very much limiting what other people will be allowed to bring into the home. There's still stuff to declutter. I've
Yeah.
constantly got a charity bag in the garage with more
But
things in it.
but that's a positive thing too, in a way, because like you said,
Mm,
I know that you're very eco ethos. You put it strong, eco ethos.
mm,
I agree with that. I think that recycling and
mm,
giving to charity for those individuals that you have a lot of opportunity for the things that are sitting in your house that you haven't used for 6 months, that
mm.
somebody else who might be looking for just that item
Yeah.
that they can go pick up at a thrift store that they can afford. So you're not only decluttering. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not just decluttering your own home. You're providing opportunity for other people who are missing something in their own.
Yeah. Because if you keep too many things, say you've got picture a drawer, if you've got too many things in that drawer, the items that are in there are likely to get damaged or beaten up or bent out of shape or whatever. And then suddenly it becomes landfill or trash. Whereas if you just had in that drawer the things that you needed and you remove the things you didn't before they get beaten up, they can have a second life with someone else, and they can keep, and then they can pass it on to someone else, and we can keep going in a much more sort of circular way. I mean, not to get into the eco side
Right?
too much because we'll be here all day. I've got a lot to say on that
That's a
one as
whole
well.
nother
Um,
conversation.
but yeah, but there's a lot of eco reports, not eco reports, economist esque reports that go into how a mend and make do economy would be much more stable than our current Um, throw it away economy, constant, let it break and throw it
Yeah.
away. And I think, yeah, reducing the stuff down reduces our choices, makes life a lot calmer, reduces down the space that we need, means that we are putting things back out into the world that can be used by other people. And but yeah, it literally for me is reducing the chance of stuff getting broken within my home because there's not so much stuff there. If I've got it in a heap, on the clothes getting damaged in heaps on the floor and all that kind of thing. Even people are like, oh, but all my clothes are hung up in my wardrobe. But if you ram them in, you've got to iron them again. They're going to get damaged. Buttons are going to get ripped off. Things are going to snag. Like there's the 80-20 rule in lots of things in life. But again, with a cupboard or a shelf or whatever, 20% of it should be space. Space is a noun.
So no,
It's
I
a
like that.
physical, space is a physical thing that should be between stuff. Because if you picture sort of like your clothes on hangers and they're all squished together, how much harder it is to get everything out. So you're damaging the items that are on there. It's taking you extra time to get things in and out. You can't see what's there. It's suddenly a stressful experience just to get your shirt out in the morning. If you've got space between the hangers, suddenly everything's so much calmer. It's
Yeah,
just so much happier.
yeah, that's brilliant. I like that. It's I think that and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that doing that and decluttering that and organizing that helps us gives us a better mental
Mm,
I won't say break, but I think our mental well-being is better because you're not
yeah.
constantly thinking about it. You're not constantly going, I got to do this. Or if you go to search for something, let's say I want to go find my favorite shirt and I have to go through that whole pile of stuff that's in the closet and frustrated trying to find my favorite shirt when if you leave
Mm,
20%, then it would be much easier to find the shirt, which
yeah.
I'm not angry. I'm not frustrated. Uh, I'm not in a hurry. I'm able to go in and it creates a better mental environment, I think.
Mm. I've just switched to a 3 month wardrobe, and obviously this will depend on the seasons of where you live. Here in the UK, we basically have raining season all the way through. No, we sort of have there's sort of like a couple of months of summer and then winter. The rest of it's like soggy winter. But so I usually use the clocks changing in the UK for the times when I change my wardrobe, and I've actually just switched over to doing it in 3 month blocks. And it's not because that's when the seasons change, but it means that I've got less hung up in my wardrobe, but I haven't necessarily got rid of the stuff.
Right.
So I have compared to many, I have quite a minimal amount of clothing. But then when the end of this 3 month block is the end of December, beginning of January, I will get my boxes out. I think I've got a box and a half in the loft that encompasses between what's in my wardrobe, my chest of drawers, those box and a half, that's all my clothes. And I will get those out and I will shop for my own stuff. And I will put together another small block of clothing, swap out a few bits. And as I said, I've been doing the 6 month one for years, but I'm already loving the 3 month
The 3 month one.
rotation. I have worn so many more outfits since I switched to 3 months, even though I've got a lot less clothes out.
Right.
I'm actually putting outfits together. I'm pretty much always in something navy. I'm not like navy and navy. That's my look. But I've actually worn a coloured top with my navy skirt, and I've not. Quite often, I will wear something, put it in the wash, wear one other outfit, and I'll be straight back to the outfit I liked. But yeah, I've like tried other things and put other things together, and because there's less choice, I'm not so overwhelmed that I
Right.
just go, "Oh, I'm going to get the two things that I'm used to." Now I've got like half of what I had there. Yeah, so I'm loving it. So if you get overwhelmed with your clothing, try the 3 month one. Because yeah, at the moment, I absolutely love 3 months as a block of clothes.
That's a really good idea. It's a brilliant idea, actually. What do you think? What do you think the first step for somebody? If somebody, let me try that again. My brain is moving faster than my mouth. What do you think would be the first thing that somebody should do if they want to start decluttering their house or organizing it?
Easy wins. It's got to be something easy to start with. My favorite one is the spices. So spices and seasoning like your paprika and your turmeric and all those kind of things. There's usually something out of date because we presume they never go out of date, and then we check the labels and there's something from like 12 years ago in there. And
You've
then
been to
just
my
food in
house.
general. Food in general is a good one because we tend to not have sentimental attachment. I know a lot of declutter sort of experts and things will say, oh, clothes is a good one to do early on, but I find clothes really sentimental. And I remember a lot about certain events in my life based on sort of what I was wearing. And I'm not someone that's really into fashion, as I said, but I find clothes bizarrely sentimental. So for me, they get done. If I was to do a list of least sentimental to most sentimental, clothes would be just above my memory box. Apart from literally my memory box, they are the most sentimental thing that I would have to deal with. So it's working out what's the least sentimental to you, what's going to be the easiest, something that's quick, that's not going to require a lot of thought. And that includes thought about where is it going to go? Because you can't do anything with gone off food but put it in the compost heap. It's that's like your only option. Medication, you can't do anything but check the laws in your country, but for the UK you are meant to give it back to the pharmacy. Worth checking. Whatever country you live in, even if it's legal, you should not be putting it down the toilet. Please don't put it down the toilet. It ends up in the water system and then it mucks up everyone's medication that they're on.
Big
So do
time.
not put medication down the loo. Whatever you do, don't put it in the loo or the sink or anything like that. But in the UK, you can take them back to the pharmacy and then they're responsible for making sure that they are disposed of correctly. Whereas you start working down the list to things like furniture and clothes, you have also got that overwhelm of where is it going to go? And as much as I am super eco-friendly and I want things to stay in circulation, I also think it's better to get it out of your house and gone than it is to keep hold of it for another 6 months, waiting to find the right place for it to go. And that's why it can be quite beneficial to work with a coach, among other reasons, is that they will know where the recycling centre is that's close to you. They will know where the good charity shops are. If it fits in my car, I will take it for clients. I have an estate, so I can get a fair amount in. I do want to get a big van eventually so I can take furniture as well. But I know the charity shops that have furniture trucks that will come and pick up. So even if you're not going to work with a coach, if you're stuck, find a local coach and say, can you recommend a good charity shop for me to take this to? I can't imagine they're going to not help you. Even if you're not going to take on their full services. But that can be quite an easy way to find good drop-offs and things. I'm still surprised people in my local area don't know about the furniture project down the road because it's my favourite shop in Newbury. It's so good. They always have the most beautiful things in there. And lovely big unloading door. I just roll the car back up to it. I was like, here, got another load of stuff for you and what have you. But those kind of decisions can stall the decluttering process for people that are early on. So do some of those things where it is very, very simple to get rid of the items. So if you know a clothing charity shop, then do your clothes because you know where those can go. If you know your bookshop takes secondhand books, then you can do those. But things, food, medication, they are just going to have to be waste, whichever way you obviously waste them correctly. But it takes out the decisions of working out where the thing's going to go. As you move further down the list, I do find it is easier to declutter things when you know where they're going to go. So if you're like, right, I need to get into my clothes, do a bit of research before you pick up that first item and think, where do I want to keep this? It's so much easier if you're putting it into a pile for the charity shop than if you're just putting it into a pile that's going somewhere else. It's very hard to connect letting go of that item if it hasn't got a new home. We do get attached to inanimate objects.
Yes, we do.
So my daughter understands if she's letting go of a toy, it's because someone else is going to enjoy that. Whereas if she was looking at that and thinking that this was just going to become rubbish, how much harder would it be to let go of it? And I think it doesn't matter whether it's a cuddly teddy bear or it's a notebook. There's still going to be a little bit of that going on in our brains, whether we realize it or not. So yeah, have a plan for where things are going to go before you even pick up the first item and decide whether it's staying or going.
I think that's a brilliant way. I think because we have times before, like when my daughters moved from here to out of town to a different state. They had a really hard time picking what they wanted to take with them, and they go, "Well, this happened here, and this happened there, and this was here," and so yeah, I think that's brilliant advice. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about you have a book, and you have a podcast. Can we touch on those briefly?
Yeah, I'm so ADHD, aren't I? I've got all these things.
That's okay. I mean, look, you're providing an opportunity for people to improve their lives in a way, because look how good it feels when you do organize something, when you do get rid of something, and when you do give something to somebody or to an organization that is going to go to somebody that really needs it. I grew up very poor. We grew up living in thrift shops. So I respect a thrift shop for people who can't necessarily afford something and they have the opportunity to have that. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing to declutter and to organize and to remove things so that you can bring in something new.
And it's sometimes what you're bringing in new into your life is peace and calm. It's not even we make space to breathe. We don't need to make space to bring new physical things. We can make space to bring in new metaphorical things. There's a whole concept called the empty shelf concept. And you will find people will use it in manifestation practices, fertility journeys. I've heard of it being quite common there. People would declutter because it shows whatever you believe in. So for me, I'm Christian, so it's God. But whatever you believe in, the universe or whatever, you're showing that you have space for whatever it is you're trying to bring in. So if you're trying to bring in financial success, you're having this empty shelf shows that you have space in your life to bring in financial abundance and all that kind of thing. But like I talked about earlier with the core values and the life goal affirmations, and a lot of it I find people can't decide who they are and what makes them happy. And that's what sort of bore the podcast, which is What the Heck is a Happy Lifestyle? And we're in season 3 at the moment. And people come on and they're asked 3 questions, and it's sort of about what makes them happy, what is happiness to them, what is a happy lifestyle to them, and the idea behind it that it shows all the different variations of what happiness can be. And as long as happiness isn't mass murder, then it's fine. Like we can all find happiness in lots of different ways, as long as it's legal. Then why not? Like, it doesn't, for me, finding a piece of furniture in the charity shop that has wheels on it, so much happiness. Finding a dress with pockets, all the happiness. Whereas someone else traveling abroad, like exploring new places, that would be happiness to them. Whereas for me, that's hell on earth. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to leave my house. And I love having those conversations with people. I do them as Instagram lives, and then I put them out as a podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So yeah, hunt that one down. What the heck is a happy lifestyle? And then the book. I'm still a little bit stunned that I've done this. Like, I did a thing. I made a book. So I have had on my goals list, like sort of long-term goals list, for quite a while, that I wanted to write a book. And then at the beginning of this year, it went on to this year's goals. So it got given a date. This was going to be the year I was going to write the book. And then the beginning of the year was really tough. I was really struggling with my agoraphobia, and it was just a lot. So I decided to show myself grace. I talk about that a lot. Fluffy blanket of grace went around my shoulders, and I went, what could I do that would actually still be part of my journey to bringing out a book, but is less pressure than a book? And for me, that was to bring out a planner. And then, me being me, I've done both. So I've bought out, I've got an actual copy in my hands for those of you watching the video. I bought out, it's called a Happy Lifestyle Planner, but it's got all the coaching. So it's got the actual explanations for how to do things in it. as well as the 12 months worth of worksheets and things to do the planning. So it's a hybrid book and planner in one, because I don't do things by heart.
If you're going to do it, you might as well do it completely, right?
Exactly. And I'm like, I cannot tell you how much pride I have over this thing. The fact that I got it out there and got it into the world. Even 2 weeks before launch date, there was a massive stumbling block that I won't go into now because it could be a whole episode in itself. But I got it out, and I'm very, very proud of it. And I've got 2 5-star reviews on Amazon already, so I'm very happy. I don't care if no one else likes it.
Well, that's
I do.
And that's brilliant. Where, if somebody's looking for this, I know you have a website that for coaching business itself, and your podcast and the book. The information on the book can be found on your website as well. Correct?
Yep, and it's on Amazon. So if you search my name, Jessica Barkley, or A Happy Lifestyle Planner, and then scroll past the paid sponsored adverts and go to the real list of things. But I usually am in the spot 1 or spot 2 if you search A Happy Lifestyle Planner. Even though I'm the only book called that, there are people that do clever things with their keywords, don't they, and get above you. But yeah, on Amazon, so it should be internationally available. There might, I feel like there's one country where, because it's colour and they don't print. And if you think, I've done it through KDP, which is so it's self-published through Amazon. They print to order. And if you're thinking, that was one of the things that I think stopped me for a long time, was putting that amount of money up front to print something. Right. And they kind of cover all of that as well. They take the pressure off with that. So it was, I cried when it went live on Amazon. I was just like, it's a real thing. So well,
I found it on Amazon, actually. I did. So congratulations. Well done on that. I did find it on Amazon. And although it said in UK, it said we ship internationally. It asked me to put my, accept the cookies and to, make sure I had my United States address in there. And it says it ships it internationally. Is it available on Kindle as well? Or is it just just soft cover?
So at the moment, it's just soft cover. I do want to do a hardback, but hardback print to order is quite new. So I wanted to get, because I had this issue pop up 2 weeks before it was due to launch. I was going to do hardback and softback at the same time. I will be doing hardback at some point next year. The Kindle version, because there's a lot of worksheets in it, the Kindle version I'm going to do in January, but it will have links to printables in. So I've now got to learn how to embed links. But I have kind of set the goal of the end of January to have a Kindle version with all the coaching bits in it, and then links to free printables.
To the download
so if
stuff.
you purchase the Kindle version, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I think, it works better as a printed version because you've got all the bits then to do all the exercises. They're all together. But the first thing I decided when I put pen to metaphorical paper to do this was I didn't want to have any dates in it.
Right.
Because one of the things I'd found with planners, and I whether you're ADHD or not, I think this is very common, is you'd miss a page and then it stares at you like you've missed a page. You can't keep going. You can't just leave a blank page and then carry on the next date that you come back to. You get that blank page guilt. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want people to be able to literally just carry on. So if you have a month off, if you're traveling, or you're just tired, or you forget about it, you can just come back to it. And so you can make your book last for 4 years if you wanted to.
Theoretically, we want them to do it as soon as it can change their life effectively. So yes, but that's brilliant to do it that way, I think, because like you said, I never thought about it until you brought it up. Sometimes if you miss a day, you kind of go, well, I was supposed to do that 2 weeks ago. That's what the page says. And it might stop me from doing it again. But yeah, great idea. That's a fantastic
I found that with
idea.
a lot of clients, a lot of reasons they had half-used planners was because they were like, once I've missed a couple of days or a week, it was very hard to go. yeah, they felt guilt that they'd failed themselves by being a real human being in a real human being world that doesn't go to plan. But they would beat themselves up so much that they just shove the half used, quarter used planner in the back of a cupboard. And I talk about it in the book. It doesn't matter. Just pick it up and carry on.
I have done that. I used to buy these, and I can't remember what the name of them were, but it was a planner, and the dates were completely set out all the way through, and you're supposed to go through it just like that. And I can tell you that when we were cleaning out the garage, I actually found that planner that I stopped writing in because life got in the way, and it was about half done, and I couldn't even reuse it because the dates in it were all from like 2005. So it negated, I couldn't use it any longer unless I crossed all the dates out on every page. So yeah, that's a really good idea. Very good idea. Um, I will make sure that there are the links to your website and how to get in touch with you and what you can do for others because you do offer a coaching service. Now, can I ask you this? Your coaching service is not limited to the UK, correct?
Yes, international. I think the first person to get a copy of my book was in Germany, closely followed by America before my copies had even arrived.
Wow.
So yeah, all over the place. I mainly coach online. I do one-to-one online, and then I have a membership, and I do a little bit in person. And if even if you're in the UK and just not close to Berkshire, I do travel up to about an hour. I will travel out because quite often it's sort of 5 6 hour chunks. It's worth traveling. But the one to one I can do via Zoom or whatever your preferred platform is. And then I so the other way I coach apart from one to one is I've got the membership, which is different people learn differently. Some people find coaching one on one a bit too intense. They want to be able to sit back and process. So, and also from a financial point of view, because let's be honest, we all have to factor in cost. And one to one coaching is a lot more expensive than doing membership. So, I really wanted to have the membership community so that it was available for more people, that it was more accessible for people, and it's got courses in there. I tend to add about 2 new courses a year. It's got printables, it's got guided audios, it's got additional workshops that I do throughout the year. So we've just finished our yearly goal setting. We had our last session last night, and that was a 5-parter. September we do an 8 workshop series as well. We've got a Trello workshop coming up in January, and then every month we also get together to plan our goals. And those sessions, I do my goal setting at the same time. So it's very much showing that I practice what I preach, and we do it all together, and we have that accountability together. And it's really nice. There's a lovely little community, and then we have a book club and stuff. It works out as £12 a month in the UK. So I think it works out about $15 a month in America, and you can cancel at any time. So if you've got a really busy month coming up, you can pause your membership and come back to it a month later. And I caved this year. I've never done a Black Friday offer, but I caved and did a Black Friday offer. But mine's like a Black Friday month. So normally I only do a monthly option normally, and I've decided Black Friday is going to be my one time a year where I do a yearly offer. But it saves you, I think in pounds, a year would be £144, but there's £44 off, so it's quite a big saving to pay for the year. But it's quite nice. I've done it. The idea came because people were asking me about gifting a membership to someone. But they didn't want to have like a monthly direct debit coming out. So I set it up so people I do a digital voucher as well. So wherever you are in the world, you can do the yearly membership for someone and get a voucher that I'll send as well. And then if you're in the UK, I can do a printed voucher and send a copy of the book. But got such a short window before. I think we have to post by the 4th of December for Christmas, guaranteed Christmas this year, because there's so many postal strikes planned.
Here too. Same thing here. It's just ridiculous. They become really convoluted to try to get something mailed to somebody. What is your website, please?
My website is www.thelifestylecoachuk.com, and that connects onto everything. You can find all my Instagram. I've just joined Twitter. Not quite sure what to do with it yet, but I've just joined.
I think we're all
Twitter.
not sure what to do with Twitter yet, to be honest.
I mean, some really entertaining posts, so maybe it would just be my place to go for a giggle. But it's I've just joined Twitter, but Instagram, of the social medias, Instagram is probably more my happy place. I'm quite enjoying making some reels now. It's just a bit of
Instagram is. I think Instagram. There's a lot of people I know that went from Twitter. I've been on Twitter for quite some time and had a big following there, but with the new ownership and the changes that are coming about, there are a lot of people who are kind of leaving Twitter, and that's a whole different conversation. But I do most of my stuff actually now on Instagram as well. I think it's a brilliant opportunity to entertain people, and they don't even know they're learning.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. You get to slip something in there. Jessica, this has been fantastic. This is one more thing before you go. So before we leave, do you have any words of wisdom for anybody wanting to embark on this journey?
I will part with my favorite quote, which is actually quoting myself, shamelessly quoting myself. And that is that the only person that needs to love you is you.
That's a brilliant quote. I think you should keep quoting yourself. Thank you very much for spending your time sharing your journey, your wisdom, and your experience. I think that hopefully today we've inspired some people to declutter and to reorganize, to start their new year off, and then continue that throughout the year. I believe we might have motivated people to do that because it's easier than you think. As you said, you just got to make a list and start. And I hope that we've educated people. So thank you very much for being part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time, I hope we have another conversation shortly down the road. I look forward to it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.